All right, friends, this is a little bit of a weird one, but we're going through it anyway. My buddy Josh Lloyd hosted a 9-category mock. I had the 6th pick in said mock, and then I had a little bit of a user error moment in that mock, and I'll walk you guys through the whole thing. We'll see what we learned. We'll have some key takeaways at the end of it, and today we recap a 9-category head-to-head mock out of slot 6. This is Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I'm Dan Bespers. Thanks as always for tuning in. Please take a second here to hit that like button. If you're watching the video, this is the time to do it. Pause what you're doing. Hit the thumbs up. If you've been enjoying our content, please hit that subscribe button. I don't know if me telling you actually makes any difference at all, but I don't know. I'm going to keep doing it because it feels like it's useful. And then follow me on Twitter at Dan Bespers and follow at Old Man Squad on social media. That one not only gets all of the show drops that I'm doing, but it'll follow you back. And it's over 1,200 now, so that's fun. Here are the results of the mock draft. I'm going to give you the whole team, and then we're going to go through and talk about it piece by piece. So when Anthony Davis in the first round, and then I clicked the wrong button, and I ended up with LeBron James in the second round. So at that point, it was all about trying to figure out how to come back from a mistake. I went Cade Cunningham in the third, Desmond Bane in the fourth, DeMar DeRozan in the fifth, Mikal Bridges in the sixth, D'Lo in the seventh, Austin Reeves in the eighth, Onyeka Okongwu in the ninth, Daniel Gafford in the 10th, Mitchell Robinson in the 11th, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in the 12th, TJ McConnell in the 13th, and Noah Clowney in the 14th round. Here's the thought process behind the team. First of all, you guys have listened to my show enough to know that I like Anthony Davis in the first. I thought there was at least a decent chance he was going to go with the 5th pick, which would have taken him off the board. He did not, however, go with the 5th pick, and so that left him there for me. A lot of questions I get on AD, so I figure what I'm going to try to do today on this show that's a little bit different is rather than just tell you why I like the player, because we've been through that, I'll tell you why I went with a particular choice as opposed to the guys around them. People are always asking why I prefer AD over Halliburton, and it's a reasonable question over Trey, guys of that ilk, because assists are hard to come by. I just think that they're I get it, Halliburton, Trey Young, these guys, they're going in the first round. Someone like a James Harden probably doesn't make it back to me, so, how many of these 10 assist guys are still going to be out there? Very few, but there are still a bunch of 6, 7, 8 assist guys floating around. So I'm not overwhelmed by that. And then also, I don't think Halliburton is going to have that great of a scoring year. I think we saw a bit of a downtick. And to me, he feels more like an end of first round kind of guy, where we know Anthony Davis can be a top 3 per game player. And that type of player just doesn't grow on trees. Someone that's going to give you that type of positive in that many things. And, I get it. Starting with a big man in AD, he is sort of more traditional in his big man build, slightly better than a lot of bigs in free throw percent, and then obviously very, very good at both defensive stats and pretty solid at scoring for, the center position as well. You just pair him up, get a guard. Well, that's where I screwed up because in the second round, somehow Scotty Barnes and Kevin Durant were still out there in the second round, as was Donovan Mitchell. And I was filling out a form for my kids' elementary school. There's some packet you have to fill out, a bunch of pages. And I looked back up and I was like, oh, yeah, I got, I was doing a punt free throw, but because I'd written down a bunch of names thinking I was going to get Giannis for a punt free throw build. And then I'll admit, I just forgot. It's a mock draft, so these types of things happen a bit more frequently than, in a regular one. But I just plumb forgot that I wasn't a punt free throw team, and I took LeBron. Who's fine. He's not going to break my team as a second-round pick, but he's not at all the guy I wanted when you had, in my eyes, 3 choices that were clear-cut above him there. If I had my druthers, I'd probably go KD, Donovan Mitchell, second choice, Scotty Barnes, third, and then LeBron somewhere after those guys. But I don't have my druthers. I left my druthers aside when I made the wrong call. So now it was about figuring out what my team was turning into. So the nice thing about the LeBron pick is that, again, you get a nice chunk of a few different things that are all still available. LeBron can score. He hits threes out of the power forward spot. Field goal percent is very good for my 2 guys. LeBron will get you steals as well. Free throws are troublesome for my team now after these 2 picks, and then old guys on the Lakers is another problem. But the choice was, do I try to shore up free throws, which is one of the issues that this team is going to have, or do I lean into the punt? And ultimately, I decided to shore it up. I figured I wasn't bad enough to not be able to overcome it. Like, my team's probably not going to be one of the better foul shooting teams in the NBA or in this fantasy league, but I think there are plenty of guys left that can keep it from being the worst. And plus, if I'm fighting with a Giannis team, punt whatever, it's going to be a tough sledding to beat that team in the big man categories anyway. So I went Cade Cunningham in the third, where I probably could have gone Brunson if I wanted to help the free throw number. I would argue more. Other guys that I considered there, Kawhi, but I already had some old, so that was probably not going to happen. And that was Jalen Williams went right after me, but I don't think I was really looking at him there at 31. So I went Cade, and I felt like I could get away with Cade in the third because LeBron is a higher turnover guy, and Anthony Davis is not. My first rounder was a low turnover dude. So I only had one guy on my team out of 2 picks that's going to be a problem in turnover, so I decided to go one more. So give me the scoring. I think Cade's defensive stats will be a little bit better this year. Give me some assists. He's an okay rebounding guard. I don't think he's going to hurt my percentages that much. He'll help the free throw come back a little bit. I've got plenty of field goal percent buffer there. And this is fine. It's not my usual cup of tea in the third round, but, nor is this start of the team. Fourth round, I went safe. I went Desmond Bane. There's nothing special here. This is pick 42. Jimmy Butler came off the board right before me. He was another name that I considered at this spot, but again, I was trying not to go super old after AD and LeBron at the beginning. Jalen Johnson is the pick there if I was deciding to punt free throws, but I wasn't. So I decided to lean farther into the guard stuff. Shooting guard who's not going to kill me in field goal percent. He's going to get a bunch of threes again. Scoring is good for Bane. Assists are going to be decent. Steals are going to be decent. Free throw now is working its way back into sort of a healthy spot. So I think I like what I've done here in this sort of comeback. Although, there were some strengths early, like blocks, that probably aren't anymore necessarily. I think steals are still pretty darn good. I think threes are pretty good with my second, third, and fourth round picks. Not that Cade is great there, but he'll be fine. And I think field goal percent is still going to be okay enough because of the first 2 guys. Fifth round, I went safe again. I wanted Jared Allen. He went off the board 2 picks before me. So I went DeMar DeRozan, which, whatever. Like, it's not my favorite pick. It's in the mid 50s, but it's scoring, which I felt like I wanted to continue to lean into the scoring stuff after taking AD, who's not the best scoring first rounder, but he's not terrible. I got pretty good points now through 5 picks. This is another player who doesn't take many threes, but the steals stay good. The turnovers remain. These are Bane, DeRozan. These guys are going to get low turnovers and get some assists. And now I've neglected the Anthony Davis strength of blocks seemingly for too long, but it's also about getting the right guy here. So after the 5th round and the 6th round, I was just waiting to see who was left, and Mikal Bridges was still on the table. I wanted Josh Giddey, oddly enough, because I thought I could handle another higher turnovers guy after the previous few picks, but he went early, and so that ruined that plan. But Mikal Bridges was still there. And Bridges at 66 to me is an easy yes. We'll get the steals. We're going to get more scoring, I think, than his Phoenix days, but less than Brooklyn. We'll get some more threes. Hopefully the percentages are better. Free throw continues to climb after a tough start. I've managed to work that back into the mix. Now my team suddenly is bad at big man stats after starting with AD and LeBron, and this is in the back of my head. Believe you me, it's in the back of my head. But the farther we go down the board, the more I'm realizing I'm probably not going to get the big men I want. Because you can see where some of these guys are going. Mark Williams went at 68. That would have been a reasonable pick instead of Bridges. He was probably the other choice there. 7th round, Isaiah Hartenstein went the very first pick of the 7th round at pick 73. I was hoping he'd get back to me. at 7-7. He did not. And so I pushed big men back again, possibly foolishly. Although part of what I'm doing here is determining how far down the board I can wait before making moves on big men. So the ones in particular that I'm targeting. We're learning. D'Angelo Russell is where I went in the 7th round. And again, like at this point now I have 3 Lakers. The second one was by accident. LeBron was an accident, but D'Lo was not. This is pick 79. I think this is, 81. And this is an easy yes. Easy yes. I think I might have been right. I think it was 79, actually. D'Lo was top 50, second half of last year. I don't think the Lakers are moving him, at least not early in the season. And even if they did, he ends up in a place where he's going to get to still launch away. And he's shown he can be quite good when he's just launching. Because since early in his career, he fixed his free throw stroke. And he still knocks down a ton of threes. He still gets some steals. I don't really care where he ends up because I don't think he's going to be like a backup on a contender. If he gets traded, he's going to go to a bad team where he gets to do a bunch. So no problem. I think D'Lo is an easy 60s ranked kind of guy, and I'm getting him here close to 80. So I'll take it. And then just for funsies, in the 8th round, I went Austin Reeves just to go ahead and get the entire Lakers starting 5, basically, at least the ones we know. Who the hell's the 5th Lakers starter? Is it going to be Rui? Is it going to be Vanderbilt if he's healthy? I guess those are probably the 2, right? Squints thinks about it. Those are probably the 2 most likely ones. But Reeves in the mid 8th round is totally fine. This is pick 90. He's going to be ranked between 80 and 100. His downside is defensive stats, and I have a truckload of steals so far. I mean, look back at the top. AD, over 1 steal out of a center. LeBron, over 1. Cade, probably over 1. Bane, around 1. DeRozan, over 1. McHale, over 1. D'Lo, probably over 1. Every single player I've drafted so far is over a steal per game. So I can afford to take a Reeves who's going to be at like 0.6 or whatever. So this is fine. Now I'm in a real center's pickle. I got to find a way to get a center. And I don't like, I should have probably done it in the 8th round, but Brook Lopez and Jakob Poeltl went off the board before me. Those are the 2 that I was considering in the 8th. And Zubats was another one, but I just couldn't pass up on Reeves, partially for comedic effect, because I had 3 Lakers starters, and I thought, why the hell not just go the full 4? But I think if I had this one back, I probably would have gone Zubats, because I badly needed a center here, and he wasn't going to get back to me, at least not where guys are getting drafted right now. I hear commotion around the home, so we wait bated breath. I guess everybody's okay. So truthfully, this was more of a comedic pick. Not that I don't like Reeves at 90. I think he's perfectly fine there. But my team badly needed a big man, and I didn't do it. So now I'm really up a creek. And as it turned out, I kind of dodged a couple of bullets here by getting a few big men, but there was no guarantee that that was going to happen. As it turned out, Zubats and Valanciunas were the only 2 centers that went off the board between my 8th and my 9th round picks. That's not true. Walker Kessler went off right before me. At this point, I'm trying not to punt free throw anymore. So if I can find the last 1 or 2 centers that's not a train wreck in foul shooting, those are the ones I'd want. And so at 9-7, and I've lost track, I think it's like 103 or something like that, I went Onyeka Okongwu. And I don't feel bad about this pick either, because Okongwu is a good foul shooter at the big man spot. I think there's a chance, and I don't know that we necessarily see this, but his block rate fell off a cliff last season. And 1.1, I mean, that's a number that could definitely come back, especially if the minutes trend upward, which it feels like at some point here, we're in year 3 of the will he pass Clint Capella saga. At some point, he's gonna. I don't think you draft him expecting him to pass Capella immediately, but I think you can draft him knowing, you know, top 110 range is kind of the basement for Okongwu. And if he leaps Capella or Clint gets hurt or traded or whatever, then you're looking at a guy that could roll top 50 or better. So there's a ton of upside built in on a guy who was 61% from the field and 79% at the free throw line. 7 rebounds a game. We'd like to see that come up a little bit. It doesn't really address my rebounding deficiency, but it does address the other center stuff. So I'll get some blocks. He's not a bad steals guy at the big man spot, although my team doesn't really need all that. But the field goal percent, and then you hope that a little bit of that upside kicks in. And the guy behind him is a little bit of a downside kind of play, but I like Daniel Gafford a lot. In only 24 and a half minutes a game last year, he was top 40 because he does a lot of that center stuff, and he does it without completely tanking your free throw percent. He's not good. He was at 67.5% last year, but we've seen him go little bits higher than that for stretches. So, again, you don't draft him expecting him to be better than that, but you can draft him hoping he's a little better than that, and assuming that that's probably the range you're going to get. But Derek Lively, Gafford, probably splitting those center minutes. Even if Gafford only gets 22 minutes a game, which I think he can still get to, that still puts him in the 75 range. Again, I think we've missed out on the 10 rebound guys, at least among those that aren't like true punt free throw dudes. But I think I just have to be okay with that. My team is not that great at rebounding. They are okay enough to not be at the complete bottom of the board in it. Although after drafting Anthony Davis, we probably should have focused on that a little bit more. But I've addressed it a little bit. And field goal percent is good. And then now the blocks are pretty good again. And I think I'm just going to have to be okay with the fact that my team is middling in one of the big man categories. That's okay. Towards the end of the board, I don't really know what I was doing here. I went Mitchell Robinson in the 11th. That's an upside play. I wanted Dyson Daniels, and he went the pick immediately before me. I think that there's a lot. With Daniels, the steals is where the upside is built in. I think you can feel pretty comfortable that stuff is going to happen, and then maybe something else clicks for him. Maybe he shoots 45% on a bigger roll instead of 38, 39% when he had his larger role briefly when McCollum was hurt in New Orleans last year. So I think there's a bunch of upside with Daniels. He's the guy I wanted. And then I kind of took my foot off the gas. I was like, all right, whatever. Let's do the big man thing again. Let's make my team really good in rebounds and blocked shots. And suddenly my team loses its advantage in free throw percent. I don't know that this made any sense. It was sort of a weird goofball decision on my part, but it is what it is. I went KCP in the 12th, and for no other reason that I know he's not fun, but this is like almost pick 140. And I think KCP is almost guaranteed to sit around the edge of the top 100. And in a head-to-head league, there is a certain value actually in one of your last 3 or 4 picks being a guy you can just quietly start all season long. Because Robinson's probably going to get hurt, and someone else on my team is going to be IL'd at some point, and I probably end up dropping TJ McConnell or Noah Clowney, who are my last 2 picks in this one. I don't know that I need like 4 rotating roster spots at the end of my team. 2 or 3 is enough. What if one of my earlier guys doesn't pan out? I think they'll all be okay, but what if like Okongwu is relegated to a bad role this year? Heaven forbid. I'm going to need someone I trust that now, or Gafford spot turns into the rotating roster spot. So KCP's I'll fill it in with someone who's not a rotating body. We're all about to take a bunch of flyers here in the next round or two. So let's get a guy that can quietly do some good stuff until that moment happens, which now it does. And in the 13th round, I went TJ McConnell. Legitimately, there's nobody left in this one. And I'll zoom out a little bit for the YouTubers so you can see the names of guys going at this point. Russell Westbrook went after me. Bezelis, Jaime Jaquez, Bilal, Peyton Watson. Like, these are not, it doesn't matter at this point. I don't think TJ McConnell's about to do something special. Far from it, actually. With Benedict Mathurin healthy, he didn't actually have that big of a role last year. But maybe he carries over the role he had at the end of last season, which was good assists, steals, and field goal percent. And that's a weird combination to get. And so, with a rare combination, I'll take it. Noah Clowney was my 14th rounder. We've talked him into the ground on this show. If Brooklyn moves one more power forward, he becomes a pretty interesting player. And I was very surprised that he wasn't drafted in the 12th or 13th round. I thought, especially with the quality of players going in the 13th here, which, mind you, not good. I was very surprised that Clowney made it back to me in the 14th, and it feels like maybe people just forgot about him, which happens. Let's quickly talk about some of these other guys that went in the last 3 or 4, even 5 rounds that I was looking at that I didn't get, because I think that's a thing that you guys like to hear, and I think it's important. Thinking about the 11th round where I went Mitchell Robinson, I told you I wanted Dyson Daniels, and he came off the board right before me. I didn't really have a backup plan there, and then I debated between Mitchell Robinson and Clint Capella because I was like, screw it, I'll take a punt free throw big man and see what the hell happens. And I decided to go with the guy that I think whose minutes are more secure this year, with the hope, of course, that Robinson shoots 50% at the foul line instead of 40, but I don't know. 12th round, I wanted Tyus Jones. He went right before me. I wanted PJ Washington. He went 2 before me, so that's why I went safe with KCP, because at that point, I thought we were basically out of the kind of fun upside dudes, and we're into the not fun upside guys after that. And then in the 13th round and 14th round, there really wasn't anybody else I was super into. Andrew Wiggins went in there. That wasn't a bad one. Bobby Portis in the 14th. He's not fun, but if even one big man misses time for Milwaukee, like if Brook Lopez goes down for a minute or if Giannis goes down for a minute, Portis slides in and gets a much, much larger role. And then Noah Clowney in the 14th, middle of the 14th round. It was Clowney or bust at that point. This is my child continually asking me if he can lock the door. Yes, you can lock the door. We'll make it through this 28-minute podcast if it's the last damn thing I do today. If you're feeling frustration in my voice, you know why. But you know what? I said I would do shows on weekends, and this is this is what you get. It's going to be kids in them. So let's talk strategy for just a minute here, because that was my draft. You guys heard the names. My team is, at the end of it all, relatively well-rounded. I had a weakness in free throws at the very beginning. I addressed that and then created a weakness in the big man stats. I addressed some of the big man stats in the Okongwu Gafford, but then I had I'm still very weak in rebounds, but the only way left to address that is to take a guy who's also going to urinate on my free throw percent. And so I went that direction. And now suddenly, first of all, this team is very good at field goal percent. That's not a problem. Scoring, I think, is actually pretty good because I didn't take a low-scoring guy until Okongwu in the 9th round. So stockpiling scorers for 8 rounds, I think, was a pretty good way to start this madness. And then you can get away with taking some big men because you've got all your points already. I didn't take a low scorer in the 4th, 5th, 6th round and didn't have to look for points after that because I had all the points. Rebounds, I think, are better now with Robinson, Gafford, Okongwu at the end, so that's fine. Assists is probably on the weak side here. LeBron's pretty good there. Cade will be decent. Bane and DeRozan are mid-pack. D'Lo will be good. Reeves will be pretty good. So there's enough of the pretty good guys, I think, to keep it competitive, but I ain't going to beat any of the teams that have a big assist dude, like a Trey or a Halliburton, especially if they added a few middle assist guys. Man, more screams on top of the other stuff. Oh, Lord, it's a day, man. We'll get through it. Steals are good. Had those the whole way through. Blocks got good near the end with Okongwu, Gafford, and Robinson. Field goal percent is strong, and free throw percent fell back to kind of mid-pack. Turnovers, not bad either. LeBron and Cade were the high turnovers guys, and the rest of these dudes are not all that high. But, of course, that goes hand in hand with the fact that I'm kind of middle pack in assists. So, one problem begets another, one solution begets a new problem kind of thing. And in terms of just strategic, like the strategy in this one was blown up when I made the wrong pick in the 2nd round. But then I think the takeaway here, there's a couple of them. One is if you just take guys you really like that can be wins in the first 8 rounds, you'll find a way to address team needs. And my team's not going to blow anybody away in the stuff that I mid-pack in, but winning some of the time in those, it adds up in head-to-head, and it certainly adds up in roto. I didn't have a true punt, and that's okay. Everybody, head-to-head punting is such a big part of the universe now. I think you can get away with going the other direction. And then for a team like this one, mid-season is probably when you start to lean a little more into the strengths. Figure out exactly what you're great at and what you're super weak at. And we have an idea from looking at the draft, but you don't know for sure until, mid-December, something like that. That's when you really, truly know what your team can do or what your team is doing. Another thing I think we learned here is that if you want big men that can block shots and won't ruin your percentages, you kind of need to get them before the 10th round, because after that, you get into the guys that can't hit a free throw. And I think I got kind of lucky that I ended up with Daniel Gafford, who's not horrible at foul shooting, but also his role is not super secure. And Okongwu in the 9th is, a guy where the role isn't super secure. So, you got to get Zubats or Valanciunas or Pirtle, or go earlier on like a Isaiah Hartenstein, or you're going to have a lot of trouble surviving the free throw assault with some of these guys that are going later. However, if you don't care that much about free throw, punt free throws this year and punt blocks, I think, are equally fun builds, because you have these two juxtaposed styles of big men. You have the ones that are going really late that can't hit a free throw, but can do all the other big man stuff. And then you've got the ones going a little earlier who don't block that many shots, but are great for percentages and can score a little more and pass a little more. So you've got these two different roads that I think your first round pick can really steer you into. If you take an assist guy in the first round, maybe you punt blocks, because there's a really cool pathway to do that. But if you take someone like AD or Giannis or Luka or someone who's not a great foul shooter in the first round, you can punt threes, you can punt free throws. There's these other pathways you can take. And there's a collection of centers that you grab either one. All right, I think that's where we'll put a pin in things, because there's been a lot of it's been a hectic one. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We will be back tomorrow. I think we're finally going to do the Brooklyn Nets. That's the last team I've been leaving. I mostly just don't want to talk about them. Can you blame me? And I think we have an appearance I did on a Golden State Warriors show that we can slip in as sort of like a bonus episode where we do an extra Warriors preview for this coming year. So that might get slotted in there as well. Again, rate, subscribe, follow at Dan Besperson, at Old Man Squad. Apologies for the relative lack of professionalism on today's show, but you know what? You survived and so did we, and we'll see you soon.